you can count on us. This is 7 News Good Morning Fort Sill.
And welcome to another edition of Good Morning Fort Sill. Look who's back.
I am back. Kyle, are you glad I'm back?
I am definitely glad you're back.
Probably for this show in particular, right?
Yeah,
Good Morning Fort Sill. There you go.
For sure.
But yeah, I had a good time. It was so my 45th birthday was on Monday, and
happy birthday.
Thank you. And I got to head out to Denver, visit my mom, my brother. Out there, got to see a Colorado Rockies game. We can talk about that later.
Were you there to watch the Rockies or the other team?
They're not doing. I think they. I was telling you earlier. They did a 5-game stint on playing the Toronto Blue Jays, and they lost all 5 games.
That sounds about right.
But I don't know. It was fun though. Coors Stadium's nice out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, so, but it is Good Morning Fort Sill. I am glad I'm back, and let's take a look at the weather with Michael Amanqua. Michael.
Well, it's going to be hot. That's the big story. Right now, we do have heat advisories that will come into effect from noon to around 8 p.m. today, and it includes most of Texoma with the exception of our southwestern counties. Currently at the Jackson County Memorial Hospital Tower Cam, you can see pretty quiet across the area, mostly clear skies. You can't really see it from the camera, but as the sun rises, you'll see that. Yesterday, we had a high of 99 degrees in Lawton, which is around normal for this time of year. Our lows were exactly 72 degrees, right around normal. Elsewhere, we saw a high of 102 in Frederick, 101 in Vernon, 98 in Chickasha, 97 in Elk City, 99 in Altus, and 103 degrees. You were the hot spot way out there in Childress. Our latest drought monitor, we're showing a little bit of drier conditions going on just north of the Red River. Currently 76 degrees at Fort Sill, and for your PT forecast, temperatures will be steadily getting into the lower to mid 70s before we get into the lower 80s by the time we get to around 8 a.m.
Fort Stewart, Georgia was locked down for several hours after a gunman opened fire yesterday.
Yeah, that attack wounded 5 soldiers who officials say are expected to survive. The shooting suspect, one of their own.
Ivan Rodriguez has the latest from Fort Stewart.
Mag Station 1, mutual aid request for a gunshot wound on Fort Stewart.
Army Sergeant Cornelius Radford has been taken into custody after 5 soldiers were shot Wednesday. Commanding General John Lubis says the 28-year-old active duty soldier worked in automated logistics. Officials say the shooter used a personal handgun.
The shooting occurred at the soldier's place of work. It did involve his co-workers. We're still not certain about the motivations, but again, he's been interviewed by Army investigators.
Fort Stewart locked down for several hours after the shooting.
The people in the buildings were locked in. We were locked out. There was no one else there, and all you've seen and heard was the law enforcement whizzing by. I'm thinking World War III started while I was on the base.
Fort Stewart trains and deploys active and reserve Army units and is home to the 3rd Infantry Division.
This is heartbreaking. I mean, these are the folks that protect us.
Brigadier General Lubis says he is grateful to the soldiers who jumped into action.
Soldiers in the area that witnessed the shooting immediately and without hesitation tackled the soldier, subdued him, that allowed law enforcement to then take him into custody.
And a 22-year-old U.S. Army soldier was arrested yesterday, charged with attempting to send sensitive information about U.S. battle tanks to Russia.
Federal prosecutors say that the soldier sent technical information about the M1A2 Abrams tank to Russia in June. The soldier is an active duty service member stationed at Fort Bliss in Texas, possessing a very high top secret clearance. Prosecutors also allege that in July, that same soldier attempted to provide sensitive information about tank vulnerabilities to a person he believed to be a Russian intelligence officer.
Taylor Lee has been charged with violations of the Espionage Act as well as violating the Arms Export Control Act. The government has requested he be held without bond. Well, one of the things that we're going to start doing here on Good Morning Fort Sill is highlighting various units across the installations in our viewing area.
Not only will this showcase what the brave servicemen and women do every day in our local installations, but it also lets us provide those not affiliated with the military to get a better idea of what goes on behind the gates. I recently had the opportunity to sit down with the commander of the 434th Field Artillery Brigade on Fort Sill, Colonel Reg White, to talk about his unit's mission. Even though Fort Sill does have several deployable units, its primary mission is to conduct initial training for America's newest heroes. Fort Sill is just one of 4 installations across the Army that hosts basic combat training, where soldiers begin their journey. Here at Fort Sill, basic combat training is run by the 434th Field Artillery Brigade.
The brigade is part of the Fire Center of Excellence here at Fort Sill. Our mission is basic combat training. So we take civilians and process them into the Army and turn them into soldiers. That's the basis of our brigade mission. We do that over the course of 10 weeks. So basic combat training from tip to tail is 10 weeks. And in the course of a fiscal year, we train about 17,000 U.S. citizens to be United States Army soldiers.
Drill sergeants in the various cadre that support basic combat training do some heavy lifting to ensure that our nation's sons and daughters are ready for the dangers of combat.
Drill sergeants and those that support those teams, and even the officers, they come in about 03 to 04 in the morning. They're out of here at like 2200, so 10 o'clock at night on a recurring basis. So if you're talking about a high stress work, in a highest stress work week, we calculate it out to be about 108 hours.
The brigade has a number of programs and services to help cadre in such a high stress environment. The Army's Holistic Health and Fitness program is heavily utilized by the unit to assist cadre so they can be their absolute best in both their personal and professional lives.
We had the Holistic Health and Fitness team headed by Mr. Brian Christensen. And they go over the 5 domains of holistic health and fitness. So the physical, the mental, the spiritual, the behavioral, and then the cognitive piece. And then with all that, having those professionals in our organization, they can look at the soldiers holistically and then tell them what they need to kind of sustain themselves throughout the mission.
Well, we certainly appreciate Colonel White for taking the time to speak with us today. You've got more coming up with the 434th, right?
So we do. I do appreciate Colonel White for taking the time to talk with me. He and his team are great. They do a lot of amazing work. We will highlight the 434th Field Artillery Brigade coming up here in the next few weeks. Go a little bit more in depth on what our drill sergeants in the cadre do to train our newest soldiers, as well as what they do to balance that, kind of do work-life balance, right? It's extremely stressful. As you heard, they did a calculation in that interview there. 108 hours is what they kind of calculate on your average cadre, those drill sergeants, during a week while they're in cycle. That's a lot of work right there.
Yeah, looking forward to that in the coming weeks for sure.
Yeah. Well, Shepherd Air Force Base is celebrating their airmen.
Yeah, the base recently hosted their second quarterly awards ceremony and shared a post on social media celebrating the outstanding accomplishments of airmen stationed at Shepherd.
The post says that the airmen's dedication, excellence, and commitment to the mission continue to set the standard. A huge shout out to all the winners. Your hard work does not go unnoticed.
A major expansion is in the works for Tinker Air Force Base.
So it could bring more than 1,000 new jobs to the base. The land purchase comes near the southeast corner of the air base. The 131-acre purchase was announced in July. Plans include the construction of a new aircraft maintenance facility.
Base leadership says that it will give the installation some much-needed space for maintenance and hangars. The expansion is expected to bring more than 1,000 new positions to Tinker Air Force Base.
And the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has a new leader coming up. We'll introduce you to the 14th Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works.
This just in, the town of Velma is being evacuated.
Stay connected to the team you trust your way. Get breaking news and investigations here on the 7 News app.
Mark, what are you seeing?
Right now I'm here at 2nd and F.
Instant forecast with real-time alerts here on the First Alert 7 weather app. And stream live on your TV here or watch anytime on your schedule. Download all 3 for free. Stay connected to 7 News wherever you are.
Severe thunderstorm watch in effect for most of the area here until 9 p.m. this evening. Saying that ping pong ball-sized hail is now possible west of Altus. It's been an active day. Multiple severe thunderstorm warnings, some enhanced, some standard. Got a little bit of rotation here.
Over 950 customers are without power this morning.
I'm here with the commanding general of the Fire Center of Excellence.
Here's some thunder on my way in to work this morning.
We should start to clear out as we head towards the rest of the day.
Keeping you updated as you get ready for your day.
7 News Good Morning Texoma, 5 to 7 a.m. every evening.
Man charged in a deadly hit and run from 2023 has been sentenced.
Your first alert for what's next.
That triple-digit heat that you saw in those two towns, that'll be throughout most of our areas we heading in next week.
7 News, working for you every night at 10. Every evening, 7 News is uncovering breaking stories that impact Texoma. 7 News, working for you every night at 5 and 6. Your first alert forecast with meteorologist Michael Amankwa.
And we're taking a look at our current temperatures right now. We're pretty much in the 70s across the area, lower to mid 70s, a few upper 70s, 73 in Duncan, 77 in Waurika, 76 degrees. Currently in Lawton, 75 in Wichita Falls, Frederick and Kewanna at 77 degrees. Taking a look at our dew points, they're a little bit lower. They're in the 60s, lower 60s out west where the air is a little bit drier, getting up into the mid to upper 60s, closer to the 70 degrees. So a little bit more moisture across our eastern counties. Our winds are right now generally out of the south between around 5 to 15 miles per hour. They'll start to pick up later on today, and we will be between the 10 to 20 mile per hour range with gust highs 25 and even more. So it will be a breezy day for today, and triple-digit heat will continue into the weekend, and we will have a slight cool down with average temperatures going into early next week, along with a slight chance of rain, mainly along and north of the Red River. Currently, high pressure has gotten a little bit closer to us, but we still have that clockwise flow. And you may have noticed our skies have been a little bit hazy, so some of that Canadian wildfire smoke has gotten into the upper portions of the atmosphere. So there's something to watch and make it for some interesting sunsets and sunrises. And currently, right now, our current conditions, not much going on other than warmer air moving in from the south at the surface level. And over the next few hours, our temperatures will be getting down into the getting up into the lower 80s, getting up to 90 degrees by 11 a.m., upper 90s and lower 100s as we head towards the afternoon hours.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has a new leader.
That's right. The U.S. Senate confirmed Adam Tell as the Assistant Secretary for of the Army for Civil Works. In that role, Tell will carry out the Trump administration's priorities as they pertain to ports, waterways, and flood control infrastructure. Tell was confirmed by a vote of 72 to 22.
A graduate of Mississippi State University, he's served in various positions in Washington, including most recently as the Chief of Staff to Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty. Well, defense industry jobs are in high demand as our nation faces threats of war from around the world.
A community college in Mississippi recently announced a new initiative to get students trained for the booming industry.
This is the most dangerous time in the United States of America since the 1930s. That was the message U.S. Senator Roger Wicker delivered at the unveiling of DITAC. That's the Defense Industry Training Accelerated Courses program.
What we're trying to do is really market the opportunity to train for the defense industry through this hub, if you will, called DITAC.
Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College partnered with heavy hitters in Mississippi's defense industry. Ingalls, Bollinger, even Keesler Air Force Base and its cutting-edge cybersecurity program.
We have over 56 different career and technical programs. About 90% of them are applicable to the defense industry.
A defense industry that is becoming more and more digital.
This is what a modern-day community college is supposed to do. Students right here in this very building are going to be learning how to design and build those drones and 3D printing to make the parts. It's a totally new phenomenon.
Senator Roger Wicker says beyond this cutting-edge job training, it's a shining example of how education dollars should be spent.
We need to spend it smarter, and that's what we're trying to do with this National Defense Authorization Act.
Beyond bringing industry partners together, the formation of this defense training hub also opens the door for federal funds.
And a lot of those programs right now are being funded so they're tuition-free for students who are interested in training for the defense industry.
From welding and logistics to cybersecurity and AI, real pathways to high-paying jobs in half the time of a university degree.
On this day in military history, August 7th, 1990, Operation Desert Shield was initiated in response to Iraq's invasion of Kuwait.
That's when the first U.S. forces arrived in Saudi Arabia. They included the Army's 82nd Airborne Division, the Marine Corps 1st Expeditionary Force, and 2 squadrons of F-15s from the Air Force. The operation led to the largest deployment of U.S. combat forces overseas since the Vietnam War at the time. By mid-November, the U.S. had more than 240,000 troops in the Gulf and another 200,000 on the way. When completed, the U.S. and coalition forces launched Operation Desert Storm.
U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff met with Vladimir Putin this week. We'll have the latest on Russia's war with Ukraine as new tariffs on Russian oil are set to kick in tomorrow.
When the workday is wrapping up and you're ready to start your evening, get your news first. The first look at what's happening in your community.
First responders in Jefferson County worked to extinguish a semi-truck fire.
Your first look at weather approaching Texoma.
We're just going to see dry conditions, mostly sunny skies.
And your first glimpse of impacts for your day ahead.
A new scholarship program is coming to Oklahoma.
You can even watch on the 7 News app from wherever you are.
Right now I'm here at 2nd and F.
Don't wait to see the news that affects you. Know first with 7 News at 4 p.m.
President Donald Trump says great progress was made during a 3-hour meeting between U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Russian President Vladimir Putin.
The Kremlin requested the meeting as a last-ditch effort to avoid new sanctions President Trump has threatened to impose on Russia if the country's leaders refuse to end the war in Ukraine. However, the sanctions, which include a 100% tariff on Russian oil bought by other countries, are still expected to kick in tomorrow.
According to a CNN report, President Trump could meet with Putin as early as next week. It is expected to be followed by a trilateral meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
Well, NATO has started coordinating regular deliveries of large weapons packages to Ukraine, according to the Associated Press. NATO says that the packages will be prepared rapidly and issued on a regular basis. They'll include about $600 million worth of air defense equipment, ammunition, and other military aid from the Netherlands. That joins another $500 million worth of air defenses and anti-tank weapons from Sweden, Denmark, and Norway. NATO says most of the supplies will be purchased in the United States.
The SpaceX 10 crew will arrive back on Earth today.
So this is pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of movement here back and forth. The 4-person team spent the last 5 months on the International Space Station. They returned in the very same capsule that launched the mission back in March. The crew included 2 NASA astronauts along with members of the Japanese and Russian space agencies.
They conducted new scientific research, including a material flammability test for future spacecraft designs. They also participated in a study to better understand physiological and psychological changes to the human body, among hundreds of other experiments.
It's been an amazing experience. I'm grateful for the the ground team that puts together this beautiful place that we call home. Without all of the flight controllers on the ground and the massive support system that we have across the entire world, this place would not stay in orbit. Leaving with a heart full of gratitude and excited to see where the International Space Station goes after we get home.
Their replacement SpaceX Crew 11 arrived at the International Space Station on Saturday. They'll be there for the next 6 to 8 months.
Well, veterans using the VA's community care program in 30 specialties will not have to get reauthorization from the VA for a year under a new policy announced by the department earlier this week.
So this is actually a pretty good deal for veterans. So VA officials say that eligible veterans will get 12 months of uninterrupted medical services from private providers covered by the department. Before the change, some referrals were reevaluated every 90 to 180 days. That increased the likelihood of interruptions or delays in care.
The VA listed 30 different specialties that will now qualify for 1 year of authorization. Those include cardiology, mental health, addiction services, pain management, and physical rehabilitation. You can see the full list by heading over to news.va.gov.
You know, so Kyle, I actually saw this while I was on a trip. I saw this particular article. I actually think, you know, as a veteran, I think it's a pretty good deal for continuity of care purposes. A lot of the times, you know, there's referrals short period authorization. I think this will just allow better medical coverage for our veterans, in particular trying to receive that specialty care off post.
Anything we can do to widen that net, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, the VA has stripped several government unions of their most important power, collective bargaining.
The Department of Veterans Affairs notified 5 major unions that their contracts were terminated on Wednesday. It's in response to an executive order by President Donald Trump that he signed back in March. That measure used national security as the justification to cut the collective bargaining rights of many federal workers.
A federal appellate court lifted a lower court's ban on ending union contracts last week. The VA took action to end collective bargaining despite earlier guidance from the government to not do so until the litigation challenging is over. Well, Spain has halted plans to buy the F-35 fighter jet. That's according to a Spanish daily newspaper. The Spanish Defense Ministry had previously made plans to buy the fighter jet, which costs around $100 million per airframe. Those plans have now been shelved, said the newspaper, citing unidentified government sources. A number of militaries have the F-35 in service, including the U.S., the U.K., Australia, Israel, and Japan.
And in your feel-good news for today, a veteran from Tennessee and his family have a new home thanks to a national organization.
Tunnel to Towers bought and renovated a new home for them in Colombia. Last Friday, U.S. Army and Navy Sergeant Roger Lang and his family saw the house for the very first time. In 2011, Lang's military vehicle was hit by an explosive in Afghanistan. He suffered a traumatic brain injury.
His family chose to move to Columbia so they would be close to Vanderbilt Hospital. Their new home is ADA accessible and has technology to make it easier for Lang to get around.
Here's your first alert forecast with meteorologist Michael Amanqua.
And currently it's 76 degrees at Fort Sill, now dropping down to 74. And currently we will be getting down into the lower 70s by the time we get to 6 to 7 a.m. before getting up into the lower 80s by the time we get to around 9 a.m. And your future track, mostly sunny for today, so nothing notable for your Thursday. Will be another hot day across the area. And as we go into your Friday morning, maybe a few high to mid-level clouds in our northwestern counties before we continue to have mostly sunny skies for much of your Friday. Now, heading to your Saturday, we start to increase clouds, especially going into your evening hours, and that's ahead of another system that will be approaching from the north, and it might get us a slight chance of rain as you go into your Sunday. Pretty much across the north. Northern Oklahoma will have the best chance of rain, so only in Texoma about a 20% chance. Higher rain chances to the north, lower rain chances to the south, and we will repeat the same thing for your Monday with that rain chance. And as we take a look at our future heat index temperatures for today, that's why we had a heat advisory for the area. We feel like 105 in Lawton, 105 in Wichita Falls, and in Chickasha. And just going to repeat the same thing as we go into tomorrow with heat index values up to 105. In some places, even as high as 110. 101 will be the actual high today. And going into tonight, we will have temperatures down into around 76 degrees with mostly clear skies. And as we head in towards tomorrow, 103 will be the high for the area. And taking a look at your 7 forecast, we'll get down into the upper 100s as you go into Friday, Saturday. Temperatures will feel like the mid to upper 90s as you go into early next week before we warm up back into the upper 90s and lower 100s.
Well, thanks for watching this edition of Good Morning Fort Sill.